Hello world, and welcome to a very geeky sort of tap, which is short for the Oddity Podcast. I think this is appropriate. It's called Fresh as Hellies. Not at all sponsored by anybody. This is just what I'm drinking. This is Sam Adams, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about philosophical notions. Hellies, Helens, whatever. Although that's obviously meant to be like a play on fresh as hell. It says it is a craft beer, which means it's one of those super yuppie things where they throw convention away and get wild. Like if anybody's familiar with the Opie and Anthony podcast, or not podcast, it's a show. But anyway, back in the day before Opie and Anthony had their little spat, or rather Anthony got fired, whatever, going on a rabbit trail. Jim Norton was on the show and they were talking about that band, Dave Matthews. Jim Norton said, that is lawyer music. It's when the lawyers want to be cool and they loosen their ties on the weekend. That to me is the same kind of spirit that goes into naming things like fresh as hellies. It's really yuppie dorkiness. Anyway, here we go. So the other day, I was driving in my car and I made an impromptu little video about the difference between advocacy and reporting. Maybe fruiting the beer isn't such a bad thing. Now, the reason I made that video was because I've been commenting on some YouTube stuff. And as such, obviously, everybody shared their opinion, which is fine. That's what public discourse is about. But this was basically a discussion over a YouTube personality and their methods for presenting information and whether or not they were doing due diligence, etc. And this, of course, brought home to me the need to explore the difference between advocacy and journalism or reporting. So advocacy is the promotion of a position, of your interpretation of data. Reporting, as it's supposed to be, is just the presentation of facts that you observed with very minimalistic interpretation. Just interpretation is necessary to convey the message, and that's it, just bare bones. Now, how well people do that depends on the personality or the reporter, but we have to understand that a lot of times people online are just commenting. They're commentators, whether they do YouTube or whether they're in a column. And that means that what they're doing is really advocating for a position. And that is as necessary as the bare bones reporting aspect of things. People clamor and call for honesty and integrity, and that's good. We should. But in getting towards an honest interpretation, in getting to something that has integrity, that holds up under scrutiny, that's kind of a gritty, messy sort of process, which is best served by a debate, a dialectic, as it were, where people present positions strongly. Emotion is actually a part of the reasoning process, as Antonio Damasio points out in many of his excellent books. Because if we just did serial processing reasoning, like we made a comprehensive list of who we're going to marry and then checked off all the boxes, that would first of all take forever and wouldn't be very effective. We go with gut feelings. Likewise with sifting through information. Sure, it's something that has to be double and triple checked, but that's why a thing like a debate or the spirited presentation of certain viewpoints, when you take into account all the viewpoints presented and then do a background checks on the information that's inherent in those interpretations, well, then you can come to a really effective conclusion. And that's why I want to stress the need for people getting acquainted with philosophy, with rigorous ways of thinking and applying that to everything, to really assess themselves so that they can more effectively assess information and other people. It takes a lot of questioning, a lot of going through, hey, why is this my ethical system? And does this make sense? And how does it compare to other ethical systems and to other people's positions? It's just really, really general thoughts on things, but I see this repeated over and over and over again. And it seems to come from confusion between advocacy and reporting. The thing that I hear repeated is obviously, there's no honesty, there's all of this. And sure, it's a huge problem, especially right now. But it gets overused, that kind of label that people throw on something as being biased or bigoted. Look, everything will have a bias. That's why things like double-blind studies were invented, because we're inherently, we look at things with our eyes, with our mind. So we're going to be kind of a compromising factor in absolute 100% validity, because we're not some kind of perfect, machines capable of forming pristine conceptions just due to our biological nature. And neither is a computer, by the way. That's why I made that other little vlog about big data. Computer, it just crunches numbers in a serial fashion. It's not even the more fancy parallel distributed processing of certain neural networks of current times, but it's not, we just do not have at our disposal the tools to do perfect analysis, and that's fine, because we've done very well without perfection. In fact, perhaps it's our messiness that leads us to glean better results. And that's why I say, go ahead. Listen to people, present spirited positions yourself, and then glean what you can. Journalism is always going to have a tinge of bias in it, because the journalist is a person. Now, I absolutely agree with the people that say journalism today has gone askance. These people who call themselves journalists shouldn't, and you're right. They can do what they do, but I want them to call themselves commentators. However, if they do go that step and be the gentleman that they're supposed to be, well, then we have to be able to respect that a commentator, that a person that's just giving an interpretation, can add value, can add validity to a discussion. Simply because something is an opinion doesn't invalidate it. Pretty much everything will eventually become an interpretive framework, which means that all the positions you hold now are, in essence, opinions. A good number of them, besides, just really stringent scientific theories and such. Now, let's switch gears, go to a different topic. I recently installed Linux Mint, and I'm loving it. It uses Cinnamon. I think it's like Linux Mint 18.2 for the 64-bit systems, and hey, it works swimmingly. I was really able to get everything smoothly on there. One thing though, Kden Live. It works much better than it did on SUSE for this particular bit of hardware, this HP Pavilion kind of PC from around about 2014. It's a very kind of entry-level bit of tech. My nice gaming laptop is broken, so yeah. But here's the thing. If you're starting to use Linux, I've now tried Arch, SUSE, and Mint. Go ahead with Mint. It's been the most problem-free, the most visually appealing, and the most friendly in terms of somebody transitioning from a Windows user. Like recently, or before I installed this, I was just reading through various Linuxy things, and down-to-earthlinux.com had like 11 reasons to avoid Linux. And the number one thing that I'm still sticking with, as something sticking in my craw, is the software. Now, don't get me wrong, Kden Live for free software, as I pointed out before, is fantastic. But I don't know if it's my hardware, if it's some kind of knowledge gap on my end, but it's not cutting it for me. I'm going to have to, raw upload this without my logos and things and any kind of the cinematic tricks that I was able to do when it was working slightly better / worse on the SUSE distribution I had. Okay? Now here are my thoughts about this. I might have to compromise and go back to Windows for certain things that are related to higher end software. And that's not to say anything about the Linux people, because they're great. I just think that when people do things for free from a sense of passion, and they're not being paid, and there's not oversight and pressure, that can both create better and worse results. Okay? So it is what it is. Now, Linux, there's a lot of other great reasons, like security. etc. to go with. Also, philosophically, if you're like me, you're probably going to like links. Also, hey, it's free. Now, a little bit of thought on the OpenSUSE thing. Again, I think it might be a lot of things on my end, but I had trouble accessing their inode servers. It could be something with my internet connection, but I don't think that's the case. It could be something about the PGP keys that I didn't set. But anyway, those were not the issues I wanted to deal with at this time. And so I switched to Mint, and it's working much better. The cool thing about SUSE is they seem to be developing an enterprise level suite of applications, and that's really exciting because I want competitors to, the cloud systems of Microsoft and Google. So I hope this has been kind of a fun little meandering through various concepts and ideas, and has brought a bit of enjoyment to your lives. Thanks for joining me here. Visit my website, www.fractaljournal.com, for stories, webcomics, music, and podcasts. Cheers.